So in spite of this, we still see the private sector, well, surviving, one would say. What lessons can the private sector share with the public sector in dealing with the economy? One of it, insecurity, another of it, feeding, of course, into one another. Well, let's speak on developmental leadership, lessons from the private sector now with the academic director and Chief Executive Officer of Africa Program at Lagos Business School, Mr. Patrick Akinwuta. Mr. Akinwuta, good morning, and thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
So we know that you're having a summit coming up of chief financial officers coming up. But first of all, what can you share with us? Perhaps the public sector is missing, which it seems the private sector, but in spite of the headwinds, we see the private sector, we still have banks declaring profit. We still have the oil companies having windfalls and all of that. Perhaps there are some lessons which the public sector can learn from handling of business and enterprises by the private sector.
Thank you very much. We know that the public sector has certain critical roles. Rule of law, providing a level playing ground for businesses to thrive, security, fundamental rights for the citizenry. I think the real lesson that the public sector can learn from the private sector is how it conducts its business. In the private sector, there are certain fundamentals. Efficiency is the rule of the game. And when we talk of efficiency, we are talking of the relationship between input and output. How do you produce more from the same set of inputs, or how do you produce more from less input? What you've seen in the results of the private sector is a fundamental focus on the basics. What is the input? What is the output equation? You add that to transparency in reporting. So when you look at each of these institutions, they don't just come at the end of a year and present a budget and then go to sleep. At the end of the year, come and say, this is the outcome. They provide monthly. First, they provide guidance. They provide monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, 9 months before end-of-year results. And they do it in a transparent manner. They bring in the stakeholders to challenge them, to compare them to other entities. So the pressure is on. The ownership level is high. The accountability index is very high. And this is what we need to do as a nation. When you look at the public sector, what we talk about and what we're engrossed mainly about as a nation is the annual budget. So everyone is talking about the input. How much will we share? How much is allocated to A or B? But very little attention is paid to the output part. So when we talk of agriculture, we talk of what is the budget for agriculture. But Professor Adesina, a former minister of Agri, now president of AFDB, has demonstrated that the output part of the equation is very fundamental. How much tons of cassava are we producing? How much was it last year? How much are we spending on inputs? What will it be this year? What is our volume of manufacturing of key household items that are used in Nigeria? What is the input factor? What is the output factor? As a nation, we need to start asking, if you budget for roads, how many kilometers of roads was actually produced? If we do the arithmetic of the cost per kilometer of the resurfacing of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, we will understand the colossal inefficiency that as a nation we unleashed on ourselves. For more than 24 years, we were budgeting and budgeting for a 130-kilometer road. Thank God it's been done now, but what's the efficiency index with that? So this is a fundamental area that the public sector can learn from the practice of the private sector.
this to the FX issue? Because, I mean, we've seen the CBN roll out statements and policies and adjustments over and over. Perhaps there's something we can also learn for that area too. That's the FX supply challenge.
Well, thank you. Well, first, I think we must commend the central bank and the government for the bold removal of the arbitrage window between the official foreign exchange market and the hitherto parallel market. That was a bold move. It was painful, but it's the right thing to do. I mean, if you want to solve toothache or a tooth decay, you don't rub mentholatum. You have to go extract it from the source if you want to get out of that pain. So, but having done that, the point to do is to look at is how do we drive productivity? Historically, we've looked at foreign exchange from managing demand. How do you allocate effects? But the real challenge for us as a developing economy is how do we drive productivity? And to do that, we need to get better with our infrastructure. We need to focus on power. We need to ensure that there is security so that people can go about their business effectively, drive exports, and minimize import. That's what drives the exchange rate. So it's not our job to start managing what the exchange rate will be simply by monetary policies. The underlying fundamental needs to be squared. Output must exceed input. Export must exceed import. To do that, we need a productive economy. We need to create jobs. That will be possible when we invest in infrastructure, when we invest heavily in supporting agriculture, provide power. And I must comment recently, the focus of state and federal government on rail is the right focus. What we need to do is to do it in an efficient manner. You saw what we did with GSM licensing in Nigeria. We can as well put the rail infrastructure problem into a licensing model. Move the railway ministry into a railway services commission like NCC, invite bids globally, let them pay huge value. We have over 1 million square kilometers as land mass in Nigeria, but we have only 3,500 kilometers of rail. That's a poor relationship. So the focus on rail is right, but we need to do it right. And this is why the Lagos Business School, we are focused on building responsible leaders that will inspire Africa's growth. And that's why we're driving the development of leaders in Nigeria to bring in the practice of the private sector into national consciousness. And that's what we're doing in the CFO Leadership Summit, which we hold on Wednesday, and is meant to bring CFOs and CEOs together such that we understand the strategic collaboration and synergy that they can unleash to develop our economy in a fundamental manner and take our rightful place in Africa as the leading economy.
But when we get these people empowered in the private sector, the thing is, do we get them to the public sector, or do we transfer the knowledge to the individuals in the public sector?
You're speaking to the public-private partnership. I mean, great economies have a proper synergy between the academia, the private sector, and the public sector. And we're doing that at the Lagos Business School. You did at the introduction, you talked of the Global CEO Program. What we're trying to do is to develop leaders that have a broader horizon, understand the public sector input, understand the social input in a continent as Africa, understand the developments and the leverages that we can bring to play, technology, talent, in order to improve efficiency and productivity.
All right.
It is doable. and we're on the right path.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Patrick Akinwuta, the Academic Director of Global CEOs and Africa Program at Lagos Business School. Thank you so much, and we wish you the best in your summit.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's the much we can take. Sunrise, guys, thank you so much for giving me a minute or two of your time. Back to the Sunrise Daily Studios.